Item, file item number 5, lead scientist report. Dr. Goodwin.
Thank you. And the report here is, as it was last time, is divided into 3 discrete sections. As you're probably aware, one of our primary functions is to conduct the independent science reviews, which is part of building the common body of knowledge and best available science. We've also been engaged in collaborative science activities and then science communication, so that's the way the report will break down. So we have 2 science reviews currently underway that we thought you'd be interested in. As you're also aware, the Collaborative Adaptive Management Team is the process which has been going on related to the remand of the salmon and smelt biological opinions. And this is a very interesting model that's made a lot of progress in how do you get the scientists representing different groups. You're creating the kind of forum where science can be explored and then setting common priorities and then conducting that scientific activity. What was interesting in this process is that when CAMT gets to the point of conducting the scientific activity or the scientific research to inform the management decisions that are going to have to be made, they are going to do what's called directed or targeted research. And so there's 2 different models of setting up scientific activities. One is you write a request for proposals. In California, we call it PSP, proposal solicitation package. And then people submit proposals, and then you go through an independent peer review in order to decide which projects, on the basis of the research merit and application to the problem that's trying to be solved. With CAMT, they are embarking down the second trail, which is directed research, where people have been so intimately involved in the research that it makes no sense to put something out to a competitive program, because the depth of knowledge that's required in order to do the research, you're not going to get people applying from MIT or folks like that and have anything like the same level of knowledge and understanding. And so this directed research is going to be collaborative teams working across the different interests. And then the question came up, but before that work is actually funded, it needs to have a peer review. So I just wanted to let you know we're currently working through the process which we're going to put together for directed research. And it is somewhat of a gap in the science plan right now. And so we'll see a modified appendix coming out, I think, at the end of the year, based on the experience that has been developed through the CAMT process. The second science review going on is what's called the LOBO Annual Review, which is the Long-Term Operations Biological Opinions. And this is where the National Marine Fisheries Service and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service ask the science program to conduct independent peer review of some of the actions that were taken in the previous year. And the goal is, did those actions achieve their intended outcomes? What's been learned, and what advice would this independent panel have to guide the agencies in future years? And so that review, as I say, it's been an annual review. We've been running it for the last few years. We're just assembling the panel, and that review is likely to take place in early November. The charge to the panel is also being developed now, but it's likely to focus on the impacts and actions around the drought. So I think there'll be a lot of attention focused this year on this review. So there'll be more information coming out on that in the next few weeks. Are there any questions on the science reviews?
Questions for Peter? Nope.
Okay. I might just ask if George and Sam and Jennifer, if you want to come down and have a seat, as I may well be calling on you if there's questions related to this. The collaborative science activities Again, if you recall in the science plan, there were several items which were expressed by the scientific community as being really important, and it required more of a deep dive, more investigation by the broader scientific community. And one of these actions, in fact, the first out of the block, there was a data summit. There's one on community modeling. How do we build the models of the future to better understand our system? And the third was taking a very systematic view of the monitoring that's being done, particularly associated with the predictive power when we make these massive landscape changes. So this was the first activity out of the block. I'll just give it a very brief your introduction. George produced a nice summary, which is in your package there. But this was something that really took on a life of its own. We knew the science community was going to have a lot of interest in this. But the planning committee that stepped up and provided support, it was just really fantastic. And it came from right across the spectrum, from your NGOs, federal agencies, state agencies. SWIFCA Science Program was a big part of the planning effort, and MET, I think I mentioned before, were very kind enough to provide financial support for some of the nice things that happened during the data summit. I'll turn it over to George to make a couple of comments, but two things there. We had everyone from the Chief Technology Officer for California participating. You're right down to basically graduate students and postdocs. The number of participants surprised even us in terms of the enthusiasm for it. And the plenary speakers that really at quite short notice that we had included Dr. Jennifer Shop, who had come from the cyber infrastructure or the big data initiative at NSF. She had just stepped down from NSF. But while she was on the staff at the National Science Foundation, she initiated many of these big programs, including EarthCube, which may well be the sort of model which evolves here eventually in California. We also had Patricia Cruz from who's the director of the California Digital Library. She gave an absolute incredible talk. I would encourage folks to go online. All of these talks are there archived. And of course, she's a great supporter of our online journal. So much of the support which we receive from the UC system and the digital library is directly under Patricia Cruz's responsibility. There was a speaker there from Google Science and their interest in what they're doing globally. And one of the most entertaining talks, I thought, was from someone who was brought in to talk about the open source code and the history of that. Because I think I mentioned last time, one of our big concerns is that how do you coexist when you have these very big commercial companies and the private sector, and on the other side you have this open source community. And I think his talk and some of the discussions that happened on the second day, that really is not going to be an issue here. I think these folks know how to make that work. There's a place for both. And Paul Ramsey's talk spoke very articulately as to why you don't want a uniform system. So I'll stop there, George, and if you'd like to talk just a little about some of the statistics from it and where we're going from here, where we're taking the workshop.